I've spent 10 years testing arm training research using the TRX, and my arms are thicker and more defined than they've ever been using just 2 moves. But some of what the research said should work didn't with the TRX. And if your arm training is stalled, it's almost always because of this. So in this video, I'm going to show you the tricep move the research pointed me to instantly, and the bicep experiments I had to scrap before I figured out what actually works. Now, most people think biceps when they hear arm size, but your triceps are actually 2/3 of your arm mass. So let's start there. My tricep training used to focus on 2 TRX exercises: close grip presses and dips. My arms got defined, but they lacked any thickness. And that's because those 2 exercises mostly work the lateral and medial tricep heads. But there's a third head, the long head, which is actually the biggest part of your triceps. It's what hangs down at the back of your arm for that thick look. To test how to grow it, scientists ran a 12-week study. On one arm, the participants did only cable press downs, which is similar to close presses. On the other arm, they did overhead extensions, where the long head gets stretched at the bottom. The results? All 3 heads grew 1.4 times more with the overhead extensions. So if you want to fully grow your triceps, you need a TRX exercise where the arm goes over the head, the long head gets stretched, and the load is hardest in that stretched position. And that one exercise has done more for my triceps than every dip and close press combined. Skull crushers. You see, from the starting position at the top, you lower your arms down and behind your head. And at this bottom range, you're getting the deepest stretch on the tricep muscles under load. It's also the hardest position to press out of. So you've got stretch plus maximum load in exactly the same position the research said growth happens. And it's a near perfect match to the cable overhead extension the studies are pointing at. But here's where the TRX actually beats the cables. When you fatigue, you don't have to stop and change the weight. You just step forward to make it easier and keep going. So there's minimal break in tension to keep pushing on. Now, bicep training is where things got interesting and where the research didn't quite translate the way I expected. Like most people training biceps with a TRX, I started out with standard curls. And I'm not gonna lie, they did the job. But after I got past those early gains, my biceps became a lot harder to grow. You see, the curls challenge your biceps mostly in the middle position, when your arm is already half flexed, leaving the top and bottom positions relatively unchallenged. So that's when I started asking myself, was there a different exercise or better technique that would change that? And I found a study in 2025 where scientists ran a comparison to find the best gym exercises for the biceps. For 8 weeks, one group did only incline curls, where your arms hang behind your body, giving the biceps a bigger stretch, and the other group did only preacher curls, where your arm is placed in front of your body. But the results were confusing. Incline curls grew the upper bicep more, but preacher curls grew the lower bicep more. So theoretically, to grow every part of your bicep, you'd need an exercise that's hardest at the bottom, like a preacher curl, but with the arm held behind the body, so the bicep is in a stretched position. So I started experimenting with a suspension trainer. The first thing I tried was a single arm curl done from the side. The idea was to angle my body so the working arm could get into a deeper stretched position at the bottom. And on paper, it worked. I could feel a stretch on the bicep at the bottom that I'd never felt in a standard curl. And the strap position kept tension on the muscle the whole time. But the problem was, over time, it felt awkward on the shoulder joint. Holding the arm out and slightly up while curling against the strap put the shoulder in a position it really didn't want to be in. So I moved on. The second thing I tried was dropping the anchor point under the door with the strap pulling from below. To get the biceps into that fully extended position at the bottom, you have to drop to your knees and lean right back. This one did get me closer to what the research wanted. With the anchor low, the biceps have to actively hold the stretched position against the strap. You get a real loaded stretch at the bottom of every rep. But the problem with this one is the setup. It just feels uncomfortable, and honestly, the marginal improvement in stretch wasn't worth the discomfort. Now, this is going to sound anticlimactic. My conclusion was the standard TRX curl is still the best and probably the only option. But, and this is the part most TRX users miss, 2 small technique upgrades change everything about how well the curl works. And they're the reason my biceps came off a plateau and started growing again. The first technique upgrade is at the bottom. With beginners, I tell them to keep a slight bend in the elbows so they don't hang and lose tension on the biceps. But once you're past the basics, instead, straighten your arms fully and at the same time, actively contract your triceps. This stretches the biceps, which maintains tension, because when one muscle contracts, the opposing muscle has to lengthen. So contracting your tricep at the bottom forces the bicep into a deeper stretch than it could ever reach on its own. It's not the same depth you'd get from the arm fully behind your body, but it's probably the closest you'll get on a suspension trainer to that lengthened position the research is pointing at. The second upgrade is to rotate your wrist at the top so your little finger comes up and your thumb goes down. You'll feel the bicep contract even harder. That combined rotation is what fully shortens the bicep muscle, so you're now challenging it through a bigger range of motion. These 2 cues together together are the biggest reason my biceps started growing again. So how do you actually put these two exercises into your training routine for maximum arm growth? Let me show you. First, this doesn't mean every other arm exercise like close presses, reverse curls, hammer grip are useless. They all still have a place in a well-rounded program. But if you want to maximize the time you've got and get the most growth out of every session, the skull crusher and the upgraded curl are where most of your arm gains are going to come from. But they're useless unless you do them with muscle-centric technique. Lock your body in stone, lower slowly until you feel a stretch at the bottom, squeeze hard to drive back up, then hold that squeeze at the top. No bouncing, no swinging. For both, aim for 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps, 2 times per week. And don't be surprised if you have to drop the difficulty compared to what you're used to. Doing them with slow control technique and a full range of motion loads the muscle in ways most people have never trained before. Train them consistently for 8 to 12 weeks and your arms will look noticeably thicker in a t-shirt. But honestly, even with the best arm exercises in the world, if the rest of your body is still lagging behind, you're still going to look and feel half-baked. To get the best results, you want to combine this arm training with full body muscle building. So watch this video next and I'll show you the 8 essential TRX moves everyone needs to master to build full body muscle strength and mobility. I've also put together a free 4-week strength plan built around those 8 moves. It's sitting right below that video, ready for you to download for free. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you next time.